You don't belong in this section. Move right now! Get out in this-tion!
You just ended your own career.
Do you realize who he is?
What are you talking about?
He owns this aircraft. He owns everything.
Karen, you're relieved of duty immediately. Collect your belongings and leave this aircraft now.
Sir, please, I didn't know.
Respect shouldn't depend on knowing who someone is.
Get out of that seat before I call security. Karen Whitaker stood over the man in the second row, her jaw tight, one finger pointed toward the rear of the private jet. Marcus Ellington looked up slowly. He was 54, broad-shouldered, calm-faced, wearing a black hoodie, faded jeans, and old sneakers that had seen too many airport floors. A leather bag rested on the cream-colored seat beside him. His tablet glowed softly in his hand. Karen looked at the bag first, then the shoes, then his face. I said move, she snapped. This is the owner's section. Marcus did not raise his voice. I am where I am supposed to be. That answer hit her like disrespect. Behind them, the cabin was quiet enough to hear the faint hum of the air system. Morning light slid through the oval windows, pale gold against polished wood and soft leather. Outside, on the cold New Jersey tarmac, ground crews moved under the wing of a Gulf Stream that cost more than some hospitals. Karen leaned closer. Do not play games with me. People like you do not just wander into this part of an aircraft. Marcus held her stare. People like me? Her lips pressed together. She knew she had gone too far. She also knew she did not want to walk it back. From the galley, Lily Carter froze with a tray of bottled water in her hands. She was 28, new enough to still believe rules meant something, old enough to know power often protected the wrong people. She had heard rumors about Karen, cold greetings, hard stares, complaints that vanished into management files. But seeing it happen was different. Her fingers tightened around the tray. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Karen's eyes dropped to it. What are you doing? Showing you the confirmation. He opened the charter app and turned the screen toward her. Name, flight number, tail number, date. Everything was there. Karen barely looked. That proves you booked a flight. It does not prove you belong in this seat. Marcus set the phone down on the armrest. It proves enough. No, she said. I decide what is enough on this aircraft. That was the first real mistake. Because this was not her aircraft. It had never been her aircraft. But Karen did not know that. She only saw a black man in a hoodie sitting where she believed wealth should look different. Cleaner, whiter, quieter, grateful to be allowed near expensive things. Marcus turned back to his tablet. The movement was small, almost nothing. But to Karen, it felt like defiance. Her face flushed. She stepped around him, grabbed the leather bag from the seat beside him, and lifted it with both hands. Then I will help you relocate. Put my bag down, Marcus said. The words were quiet, but the whole cabin seemed to feel them. Karen stopped halfway down the aisle. Her shoulders rose with one sharp breath. For a second, fear flickered in her eyes. Then pride buried it. She dropped the bag. It hit the floor hard. Lily flinched. Marcus stood. Slowly. Not threatening, not wild. Just standing. 6 feet 2 inches of controlled patience in a cabin suddenly too small. Karen stepped toward him. Sit down. I asked to speak with the captain. You do not give orders here. I am not giving orders. Then what are you doing? Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Giving you a chance. That was when something in Karen broke. She reached for his headphones on the armrest, fast and sharp, like she was taking something from a child. Marcus pulled back by instinct. His hand brushed the sleeve of her uniform. Barely a touch. Karen gasped as if he had struck her. Do not put your hands on me. Lily's mouth opened. No words came out. Karen raised her hand. The slap cracked through the cabin. Marcus's head turned with the force of it. A red mark began to rise on his cheek. The hum of the jet seemed to disappear. Even the air felt still. Karen stood there breathing hard, her palms still lifted. "You assaulted a crew member," she said. "I saw what you did." Marcus touched his cheek. His expression did not change, but something in his eyes did. Not rage, decision. He reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out his phone again. The screen was already recording. A red timer blinked. 14 minutes, 32 seconds. He placed it face up on the armrest. "Everything you said is there," he said. "Everything you did. The threat, the lie, the slap." Karen's face lost color. Marcus looked at her with the calm of a man who had spent his life being underestimated and had finally decided this one would not be swallowed. Then he said softly, "You just ended your own career." 10 minutes earlier, Karen Whitaker still believed she was in control. That was the strange thing about people like her. They could stand in a room they did not own, under a ceiling paid for by someone else, wearing a uniform stitched with another man's money, and still believe the power belonged to them. Marcus Ellington had learned that lesson long before this morning. At 6:45, he had stepped out of a black SUV at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey, with no driver holding a sign, no assistant trailing behind him, no one rushing to carry his bag. Just Marcus, a quiet man in a black hoodie, moving through the cold morning air with a leather weekender on one shoulder and a tablet tucked under his arm. The sky above the private terminal was still bruised purple and orange. The runway lights blinked through a thin veil of mist. Somewhere nearby, a fuel truck groaned. Men in yellow vests crossed the tarmac with their heads down, their breath turning white in the chill. Marcus paused at the glass doors of the terminal, not because he was nervous, because mornings like this always reminded him where he started. West Baltimore. A narrow row house with a cracked front step. A mother named Evelyn Ellington who folded hospital sheets until her hands went stiff. 2 buses to school. Scholarships. Work study. Nights spent sleeping across 3 library chairs because the dorm room was too loud and his future was too fragile. Nobody handed Marcus anything. Not once. By the time he was 54, he had built Ellington Global Partners, from a rented office above a tire shop into one of the most powerful private logistics and infrastructure firms in the country. Warehouses, port contracts, defense supply chains, commercial real estate. Quiet assets in places most people never thought about until something broke. His company moved things that kept cities alive. Food, fuel, medicine, steel, emergency equipment after hurricanes. And yet, if you saw him walking through an airport, you might have thought he was somebody's driver. Maybe a retired coach. Maybe a man waiting for the wrong bus. That was intentional. Marcus did not dress poor. He dressed free. No gold watch, no tailored suit, no polished performance for strangers. He had owned too much for too long to need clothing to announce it. Besides, he believed one thing with a quiet, almost painful certainty. The way people treat you when they think you have nothing is the truth of who they are. Inside the terminal, the morning clerk looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Mr. Ellington." "Morning, Denise. Your aircraft is ready. Captain Hayes is already aboard. Sterling Air sent a last-minute crew replacement, but everything should still be on schedule." Marcus gave a small nod. Any issues? None reported. He thanked her by name, the way he thanked everyone by name. That was something his mother taught him. People carry their names through the world like small pieces of dignity. Use them right. Outside, the Gulf Stream waited under the pale light. Tail number Sierra Echo, Echo 1. The letters belonged to Ellington Global Partners. The aircraft belonged to Marcus outright. Sterling Air Management handled crew scheduling, inspections, and flight operations under a contract worth millions every year. Marcus climbed the steps alone. The cabin door opened with a soft hydraulic sigh. Warm air touched his face. Inside, the jet smelled of leather, wood polish, and faint vanilla from the galley diffuser. Cream seats, dark walnut panels, a conference table with embedded screens, a private suite behind frosted glass near the rear. He had taken hundreds of flights on that aircraft, some to close billion-dollar deals, some to visit small warehouses in forgotten towns, some to fly home early because his wife dinner would be ready, and she did not care how important the meeting was. Marcus smiled faintly at that thought. Vivian Ellington could soften him with one sentence and sharpen him with the next. She had built a design company from nothing and still told him when his hoodie had a hole in it. He took his usual seat, second row, window side. He set his bag beside him, opened his tablet, and reviewed the Savannah acquisition file. $300 million on the table. 2,000 jobs protected if the deal was done right. He was reading a labor retention clause when footstep struck the cabin floor behind him. Sharp, fast, impatient. Karen Whitaker entered without checking the manifest. She was 47, polished from a distance, brittle up close, blonde hair pulled tight, uniform pressed, smile absent. She stopped when she saw Marcus. Not the tablet, not the seat assignment, not the owner file, Marcus. Her eyes narrowed before her mouth opened, and in that tiny pause before the first word left her lips, Marcus already knew. He had seen that look in hotel lobbies, boardrooms, country clubs, restaurants, elevators. The look that said a decision had been made before a question had been asked. Karen stepped closer. "Sir, I need to see your boarding confirmation." Marcus lifted his eyes. Her tone was not service, it was suspicion. And the morning, already cold outside, turned colder inside the cabin. Marcus did not answer right away. He had learned that silence made some people uncomfortable because it forced them to hear themselves. Karen heard nothing except insult. She stood in the aisle, waiting for him to shrink, to explain himself too much, to apologize for sitting where he had every right to sit. He did none of that. He opened the Sterling Air app and turned the screen toward her. "My confirmation is here." Karen took one step closer. She did not take the phone. She leaned just far enough to glance at it, the way someone checks a stain on a shirt. Her eyes passed over his name, Marcus Ellington. Flight to Savannah. Tail number Sierra Echo Echo 1, principal client, all of it was there. Still, she smiled, a small smile, dry, sharp, empty. "This only shows a booking," she said. "It does not tell me you belong in the owner's seat." Marcus lowered the phone. "It tells you exactly that." Karen's nostrils flared. From the galley, Lily Carter watched the exchange through the narrow gap beside the curtain. She could feel her own pulse in her fingers. She knew that tone in Karen's voice. She had heard it used on caterers, baggage handlers, junior crew members, and passengers who did not look like the kind of people Karen thought deserved softness. But this was different. There was venom under every word. Lily looked toward the cockpit door. Closed, locked for pre-flight checks. Captain Robert Hayes would not hear this unless someone told him, and telling him meant crossing Karen. Karen Whitaker was not just senior crew. She was connected. She knew people in scheduling. She knew people in operations. Last year, a junior attendant named Monica had questioned her during a service briefing. 2 weeks later, Monica was transferred to red-eye routes out of Phoenix with no explanation anyone believed. Lily still remembered Monica crying in the employee parking lot. So Lily stood still and hated herself for it. Karen planted one hand on the back of Marcus's seat. "Listen carefully, sir. This is a managed aircraft. High-value clients expect a certain standard. They pay for privacy, comfort, and safety." Marcus looked up at her, and I threatened which one. The question was calm, too calm. Karen blinked once. "Excuse me? You said privacy, comfort, and safety. Which one am I threatening?" For the first time, Karen had no ready answer. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes hardened because she understood the trap. If she answered honestly, the whole ugly thing would stand naked in the room. So she changed direction. "I am not debating with you." "No," Marcus said. "You are not." He turned back to his tablet. That simple movement struck her harder than a shout. Karen's face changed. The polished mask cracked just enough for Lily to see what was beneath it. Not fear, not professionalism, humiliation. The kind that turns cruel when it cannot turn inward. Karen looked at the leather weekender bag sitting on the seat beside Marcus. Then she grabbed it. Lily stepped out from the galley before she could stop herself. "Ms. Whitaker." Karen turned her head just slightly. "Not now, Lily." Her voice was quiet, but it carried a warning. Lily swallowed. "Maybe we should verify with the front desk before moving anything." Karen stared at her, a long, cold stare. "Go clean up the galley." Lily's cheeks burned. Her hands tightened around the tray. She wanted to speak again. She wanted to say the manifest was available on the crew tablet. She wanted to say no passenger deserved to be treated like this. She wanted to say a lot of things. But Karen had already turned away. "Let me help you relocate," Karen said, lifting Marcus' bag. "You will be more comfortable in the rear cabin." Marcus stood. The air changed. He did not move toward her. He did not raise a hand. He simply rose to his full height, shoulders squared, face steady. "Put my bag down." The words landed low and heavy. Karen froze with the bag in her hands. The engines outside gave a soft mechanical whine as ground power shifted. Somewhere under the floor, the aircraft seemed to breathe. For 1 second, everyone was still. Then Karen let the bag fall. It hit the aisle with a hard thud. Marcus looked down at it, then back at her. "You should not have done that." Karen stepped closer. Her voice dropped. "You do not want to make this difficult. Trust me." Marcus did not blink. "I asked for my bag to be put down. I asked to speak to the captain. Both are reasonable." "Reasonable?" Karen laughed once. "You people always think being stubborn makes you dignified." Lily's stomach turned. The words hung there. "You people." Marcus heard them. Lily heard them. Karen heard herself say them too. But instead of shame, something like satisfaction moved across her face. She had crossed the line now, and crossing it seemed to free her. Marcus reached slowly toward his phone on the armrest. Karen's eyes snapped to his hand. "What are you doing?" "Calling the captain myself if I need to." "You will not touch anything." She reached past him, fast, grabbing for his headphones and phone at the same time, invading his space with the confidence of someone who had been allowed to do it too often. Marcus pulled back by instinct. His fingers brushed her sleeve, barely, nothing. Karen gasped like the whole cabin had attacked her. Then her hand came up, fast, open palm. The slap cracked through the jet like a gunshot in a chapel. Marcus's head turned. Lily dropped the tray. Bottles rolled across the galley floor. Karen stood over him, breathing hard. "Do not ever put your hands on me," she said. Marcus touched his cheek, slowly. Then he looked at her, not wounded, not broken, awake. Karen had no idea that the most powerful man she had ever insulted had been recording since the first word. Karen's palm was still in the air when Marcus turned back to her. That was what frightened Lily most. Not the slap, not even the sound of it. It was the way Marcus did not explode. He did not shout. He did not grab his bag. He did not threaten her with money or status or lawyers. He simply sat there, one cheek reddening, eyes steady, breathing slow, like a man who had already moved past shock and arrived somewhere colder. Karen lowered her hand. "You assaulted me," she said again, but this time her voice shook, not with fear. With calculation. Lily saw it happen in real time. The performance forming behind Karen's eyes. The injured tone, the trembling mouth. The story being built before anyone had asked for one. Marcus reached into his hoodie pocket. Karen stepped back. "Do not reach for anything." Marcus paused, then moved with deliberate slowness. 2 fingers, phone, screen already lit. He placed it on the armrest. The red recording light blinked. 14 minutes and 32 seconds. Karen stared at it. The cabin seemed to tighten around her. "Everything you said is on this recording," Marcus said. "Everything you did, my bag, your threat, your hand on my property, the slap, and the lie you are about to tell." For the first time all morning, Karen had nothing to say. Outside, a baggage cart rolled past the window with a low metallic rattle. Inside, Lily's tray lay overturned near the galley, water bottles resting against the baseboard like evidence no one had touched. Marcus lifted his eyes to Karen. "I would still like to speak with Captain Hayes." Karen swallowed. Her throat moved hard, then her face changed. The fear did not leave. It went underground. She straightened her shoulders, smoothed the front of her uniform, pulled herself back into the shape of authority, because it was the only shape she trusted. "Record all you want," she said. Marcus watched her. Karen pointed toward the phone. "When security gets here, we will see who they believe. A senior crew member with 15 years of service, or some random man in a hoodie who forced his way onto a private aircraft. Random. That word landed softly, but it told the whole truth. Marcus gave no reaction. Lily did. Her eyes dropped. Her cheeks burned. She hated that she had stayed quiet. Hated that one good sentence from her could have stopped this before it became a wound. Karen turned to the intercom panel near the galley. Lily stepped forward. "Miss Whitaker, please." Karen spun on her. Not another word. Lily froze. Karen pressed the ground operations button. "Ground ops, this is Senior Attendant Whitaker on Sierra Echo Echo 1. I need airport security at the aircraft immediately." Her voice changed. It became smaller, softer, almost breathless. "We have an unruly passenger in the owner's section refusing crew instructions." He became physically aggressive. He grabbed my arm. "I feel unsafe." Lily closed her eyes. There it was, the lie. Not panic, not confusion. A lie, spoken clearly, into an official channel. Marcus looked at Lily then, not accusing, not pleading, just looking, and somehow that was worse. Because he already knew she had seen everything. Karen released the button and turned back to him with a polished victim's face. Her breathing had slowed. Her eyes glistened just enough. If someone walked in right then, they might have believed her. That was the danger. Some lies arrived dressed like pain. 2 minutes later, heavy footsteps sounded on the air stairs. Lily's hands began to tremble again. 2 security officers entered the cabin. The first was older, black, broad through the shoulders, with gray at his temples and a calm face that had survived too many angry people. His name badge read Daniel Reeves. The second was younger, white, maybe 30, with a tense jaw and one hand close to his radio. Karen rushed toward them before they were fully inside. "Thank God you are here," she said. "He is in seat 2. I asked him politely to move. He refused. Then he grabbed me. I had to defend myself." Officer Reeves did not move fast. That was the first good sign. He looked past Karen, took in Marcus's cheek, the bag on the floor, the phone on the armrest. Lily standing pale near the galley. Then he walked down the aisle. "Sir, I am Officer Reeves with Teterboro Airport Security. May I see identification?" Marcus reached into his wallet and handed over his license. No sudden moves, no attitude, no performance. Reeves looked at the license, Marcus Ellington. His eyes paused, just half a second. He looked at Marcus again, then keyed his radio. "Ground ops, this is Reeves. I need client verification on tail number Sierra Echo Echo 1. Confirm registered owner and principal passenger for today's Savannah charter." Silence. 10 seconds. 15. Karen folded her arms, but her fingers twitched against the fabric of her sleeve. Then the radio answered. "Confirmed. Sierra Echo Echo 1 is registered to Ellington Global Partners. Principal passenger is Marcus Ellington, Chief Executive Officer and owner of record." The words filled the cabin slowly, one by one, like stones dropping into water. Karen's face went pale. Officer Reeves lowered the radio. The younger officer stared at her. Lily covered her mouth. Marcus stayed seated. The most powerful man on the aircraft had never needed to raise his voice. Reeves turned to Karen, and now his calm looked different. "Ms. Whitaker," he said, "we need to talk." Karen tried to laugh, but the sound came out thin. "Officer, there has been a misunderstanding." Officer Reeves did not answer right away. He looked at the red mark on Marcus's cheek, then at the leather bag lying on the aisle floor, then at Lily, who stood so still she seemed afraid even her breathing might get her in trouble. "A misunderstanding," he said. "Yes." Karen lifted her chin. "Mr. Ellington became aggressive when I asked him to follow standard procedure. I had no way of knowing who he was." Marcus turned his head slightly. "You had my confirmation." Karen's eyes flashed. "I barely saw it. You refused to look. That is not true." The phone on the armrest kept recording. Reeves noticed it. Karen noticed him noticing it. The younger officer shifted his stance, no longer ready to remove a passenger, now watching the crew member who had called them. Officer Reeves kept his voice even. "Miss Whitaker, I need you to step away from Mr. Ellington." Karen's face tightened. "I am the senior attendant on this aircraft." "Not at this moment," Reeves said. Those 5 words landed with quiet force. For the first time, Karen looked small. Not sorry, not yet, just smaller. From the cockpit, a latch clicked. The reinforced door opened, and Captain Robert Hayes stepped into the cabin with his headset still around his neck. He was in his early 60s, gray hair cut close, shoulders straight from a lifetime of aviation discipline. His eyes moved across the scene fast. Bag on the floor, security in the aisle. Marcus seated with a red cheek, Karen pale near the galley, Lily trembling. What happened? Nobody spoke at first. Karen seized the silence. Captain, I need to report that this passenger refused crew instruction and made physical contact with me. I contacted security because I felt unsafe. Captain Hayes looked at Marcus. Mr. Ellington? Marcus did not rush to defend himself. There is a recording. He tapped the phone once, not stopping it, just waking the screen. Captain Hayes looked down. The timer had passed 17 minutes. Karen's lips parted. Captain, he is trying to intimidate me with that. Hayes did not look at her. Did you strike him? The cabin went silent. Karen blinked. I defended myself. That is not what I asked. She swallowed. He grabbed my arm. Lily made a sound then. Small, almost broken. Everyone turned. She looked down at the floor first. At the bottles she had dropped. At the bag Karen had thrown down. At Marcus's phone still glowing red. Then she looked at Karen, and something's inside her changed. Fear was still there, but shame had become heavier. Officer Reeves saw it. Mom, did you witness the incident? Lily nodded once. Karen snapped her head toward her. Lily, do not start. Captain Hayes turned sharply. Miss Whitaker, stop. Lily's eyes filled, but her voice came out clear enough. Mr. Ellington did not grab her. Karen Kessen's face went hard. You have no idea what you saw. I saw all of it, Lily said. Her hands were shaking now, but she kept going. He showed her his confirmation. She dismissed it. She told him he did not belong in the owner's section. She picked up his bag without permission. He asked her to put it down. She dropped it on the floor. Then she reached for his things. He pulled back. His hand brushed her sleeve because she was in his space. That was all. Karen stepped toward her. You little fool. Lily flinched but did not retreat. Then she slapped him, Lily said. Full force. And after that she said she was going to tell security he assaulted her. The words hung in the cabin like smoke after a fire. No one moved. Karen's mouth opened, but this time nothing useful came out. Captain Hayes took one slow breath through his nose. He had spent more than 40 years in aviation. He had seen fear, arrogance, mechanical failure, medical emergencies, drunken passengers, grieving families. But this was different. This was a person using a uniform like a weapon. He turned to Marcus. Mr. Ellington, I apologize. Personally and on behalf of this crew. Marcus gave a small nod, but his face stayed unreadable. Captain Hayes faced Karen. Ms. Whitaker, you are relieved of duty effective immediately. Karen stared at him. Captain, no. You will collect your personal belongings and deplane. You cannot do that. I just did. Her voice cracked. Robert, please. I have been with Sterling for 15 years. Hayes's expression did not soften. Then you should have known better. Karen looked around the cabin, searching for someone. Reeves, the younger officer, Lily, Marcus. No one gave her a place to stand. The world she had trusted all morning had disappeared. She grabbed her crew bag from the galley with stiff, jerking movements. As she passed Lily, she leaned close enough to whisper, You will regret this. Officer Reeves heard it. Ms. Whitaker. Karen stopped. You will say nothing else to her. The cabin door opened. Cold air rushed in from the tarmac. Karen stepped onto the stairs, one hand gripping the rail, her face white under the morning light. Inside, Marcus picked up his leather bag and set it back on the seat beside him. Outside, Karen stood alone on the metal steps. For the first time that morning, she looked at the tail number, Sierra Echo Echo 1, and understood that every assumption she had made had carried her straight to the edge of her own life. The cabin door sealed with a deep mechanical lock, and the sound seemed to close one life outside while another continued inside. For several seconds, no one moved. Captain Hayes stood near the cockpit door with his hands at his sides. Officer Reeves remained in the aisle, watching Marcus with the careful respect of a man who understood that dignity, once attacked, should not be rushed back into place. Lily stayed by the galley, her eyes wet, her shoulders tight from holding herself together. Marcus picked up his headphones from the armrest. Then he set them down again. He looked at Lily. Thank you. 2 words. That was all. But Lily's face changed as if he had lifted something heavy from her chest. I should have spoken sooner, she said. Her voice broke on the last word. Marcus studied her for a moment. He saw the fear that still lived in her hands. He saw a young woman who had just risked her job against someone with power over her schedule. Her reputation, maybe her future. "You spoke when it mattered," he said. Lily pressed her lips together. A tear slipped down before she could stop it. She wiped it fast, embarrassed by her own humanity. Captain Hayes turned to her. "Ms. Carter, you did the right thing. I will put that in my report." Lily nodded, but she knew reports were fragile things. They could protect you, or they could disappear into a drawer. She had seen both happen. Officer Reeves stepped closer to Marcus. "Mr. Ellington, airport police may need a statement if you want to pursue charges. Given what occurred, you have that right." Marcus looked toward the window. Outside, Karen stood near a ground vehicle now, arms crossed tight, speaking into her phone. Even from inside the jet, her panic was visible. She was pacing in short, sharp lines, like a person trying to outrun a truth that had already caught her. Marcus turned back. "I will provide a statement. And the recording." Reeves nodded, understood. The younger officer finally spoke, softer than before. "Sir, for what it is worth, I am sorry. Nobody should have to deal with that." Marcus looked at him. "Then remember it the next time someone calls security on a person who is just sitting still." The young officer lowered his eyes. "Yes, sir." That sentence stayed in the cabin. It was not cruel. It was not angry. It was instruction, a reminder that authority can either protect the vulnerable or become the tool used against them. Officer Reeves took down the basic details. Time, location, names, visible injury, recording preserved, witness present. He spoke with the calm rhythm of procedure, but his jaw tightened each time Karen's actions were repeated aloud. When the officer stepped off the aircraft, Captain Hayes closed the door again and turned to Marcus. "We can delay departure if you need time." Marcus shook his head. "No. I have people waiting in Savannah." $300 million was waiting in Savannah. But Marcus was thinking about the warehouse workers who did not know their jobs might survive because of what he was going there to sign. People with mortgages, bad knees, kids in college, prescriptions waiting at pharmacies. Real lives behind clean numbers. He had always hated how men in suits said acquisitions like the word had no bodies inside it. Captain Hayes nodded once. "Then we will depart when you are ready." Marcus looked at Lily. "Can you still work this flight?" She straightened, surprised. "Yes, sir, I can. Are you sure?" She took one breath. "Yes. I do not want her to be the reason I stopped doing my job right." For the first time that morning, Marcus almost smiled. That is a good answer. The engines began to spool. A low vibration moved through the floor, steady and deep. Lily secured the galley with hands that still trembled, but less now. Captain Hayes returned to the cockpit. The aircraft eased away from the terminal. As they taxied, Marcus unlocked his phone. There were already 3 missed calls from unknown numbers, one from Sterling Air Operations, one from a corporate legal line. Karen had moved fast. So would he. He opened his contacts and tapped Samuel Brooks. Samuel was his attorney of 16 years, former federal prosecutor, calm voice, dangerous mind, the kind of man who could turn a single sentence into a door nobody wanted opened. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Marcus, it is early. What happened?" Marcus looked out the window as the runway came into view. "A crew member on my aircraft assaulted me this morning." Silence. Then Samuel's voice changed. "Are you safe?" "Yes." "Was it recorded?" "Yes." "Witnesses?" "Yes." "Then do not discuss facts with Sterling directly. Send me everything." Marcus watched the jet line up with the runway. "There is more, Sam. There usually is." She used racial language. She fabricated a security report, and Sterling has prior counts on her. "I want all of it pulled into daylight." The engines roared. The force pressed Marcus gently into the seat. Samuel spoke over the rising sound. "Then we do this properly. Police complaint. Preservation letter. Demand for personnel records. Notice of contract review." Marcus closed his eyes for 1 second. "Do it." The Gulf Stream lifted into the morning sky. Below, Teterboro shrank into gray runways and glass buildings. Above, the light broke clean across the clouds. Marcus opened his eyes, touched the mark on his cheek, and made a decision that reached far beyond one slap. This time, silence would not protect anyone. Samuel Brooks did not waste words. By the time Marcus's jet crossed over Pennsylvania, Samuel had already opened a secure case file, assigned 2 associates, and sent a preservation notice to Sterling Air Management. It landed in the company's legal inbox before most executives had finished their first cup of coffee. Preserve all records, crew schedules, prior complaints, internal emails, security calls, manifest access logs, personnel files involving Karen Whitaker. Every word was polite. Every word was a warning. On the plane, Marcus sat by the window while sunlight washed across the wing. The red mark on his cheek had deepened. Lily had brought him an ice pack wrapped in a white cloth, but he had only held it for a minute before setting it aside. Pain was not the part that stayed with him. It was the ease of the lie. The way Karen had changed her voice at the intercom. The way she had reached for fear and worn it like a uniform. That was what he could not let go. Lily came forward with coffee. "Black, sir." "Thank you, Lily." She placed it beside him carefully, like the cup might break if the moment did. Marcus noticed her hands, still shaking. "You do not have to keep apologizing in your head," he said. Lily looked startled. "I was not, you were." She gave a small, sad smile because he was right. "I keep thinking about the first minute," she said. "When I saw how she was talking to you. I knew it was wrong. I knew it. But I stood there." Marcus looked at the clouds outside before answering. "Fear teaches good people to wait for permission." Lily's eyes filled again. "My mother always told me to keep my head down at work. Do your job. Do not make enemies." She worked hotel housekeeping for 30 years. She used to say the people with name tags always pay for the mistakes of people with titles. Marcus turned back to her. "Your mother was not wrong." That made Lily breathe out a quiet laugh, but it hurt more than it helped. "No," she said. But maybe she was not completely right either. Marcus studied her then. The young attendant standing in the soft aisle light, still pale, still scared, but straighter than before. Courage did not always look like a raised fist. Sometimes it looked like a trembling woman telling the truth while her voice tried to leave her body. "No," he said. "Maybe not completely." Down below in Manhattan, Andrew Caldwell, chief executive officer of Sterling Air Management, was stepping into his office when his general counsel called. Andrew was 59, silver-haired, careful, and used to problems arriving in clean folders with manageable solutions. Weather delays, crew shortages, maintenance overruns, wealthy clients with impossible expectations. He was not prepared for Marcus Ellington. His assistant handed him a printed letter with Samuel Brooks's name at the top. Andrew read the first paragraph standing. By the second, he sat down. By the third, the color had left his face. He looked at his general counsel, Denise Porter, who stood near the doorway with her phone in one hand and a tablet in the other. "Is this real?" Denise did not soften it. "Yes. Have we seen the recording? Not yet. But Brooks says it exists. Airport security has already logged an incident report, and there is a witness." Andrew closed his eyes. "Which client?" Denise hesitated. "Ellington Global Partners." Andrew opened his eyes. "No." Denise said nothing. Andrew pushed back from the desk and stood too quickly. His chair rolled behind him and struck the wall. "That account is $12 million a year." "More," Denise said. "If you include fleet management, maintenance coordination, and preferred crew contracts." Andrew pressed both hands on the desk. For a moment, he looked less like a chief executive and more like a man watching water come under a locked door. "Who was the attendant?" "Karen Whitaker." His jaw tightened. He knew the name. "That was the second bad sign. Pull her file," he said. Denise's face changed. "Andrew, pull it." She held his gaze. The full file or the executive summary? That question told him more than any accusation could have. Andrew stared at her. The full file. Denise nodded once and left. Back on the aircraft, Marcus's phone buzzed. A message from Samuel. "Sterling has acknowledged receipt. Do not take their call." A second message followed. "Also, Vivian called me." Marcus sighed. That was worse than Sterling. He called his wife before she called him again. Vivian Ellington answered on the first ring. "Tell me you are all right." "I am all right." "That is not what I asked." Marcus closed his eyes. "She slapped me, Viv." Silence, not empty silence, gathering silence. When Viviancy spoke, her voice was soft enough to be dangerous. "On your plane?" "Yes." "After calling you what?" Marcus did not answer. He did not need to. Vivian breathed once through the phone. You have walked away from too much. I know. No, Marcus, I need you to hear me. This is not just about you, it never is. How many people has she done this to who did not own the aircraft? Who did not have a lawyer? Who did not press record? Marcus looked across the cabin at Lily, who was securing a drawer with careful hands. I have been thinking the same thing. Then stop thinking. Act. The jet cut through bright morning clouds, smooth and silent. Marcus touched the mark on his cheek again. I already did. Andrew Caldwell had seen angry clients before. He had heard billionaires curse over delayed catering, broken Wi-Fi, warm champagne, and flight crews that smiled too much or not enough. Luxury aviation was full of people who confused money with oxygen. Andrew knew how to calm them down, apologize, offer credit, send flowers, replace the crew, make the problem disappear before lunch. But Marcus Ellington was not asking for flowers. That was what made Andrew's hands cold. He stood in the glass conference room on the 32nd floor, while Denise Porter connected her laptop to the wall screen. Outside, Manhattan moved beneath them in silver morning light. Inside, nobody touched the coffee. The full file is here, Denise said. Andrew looked around the room. General Counsel, Head of Human Resources, Chief Operating Officer, Vice President of Client Relations. Everyone had the same expression, professional panic. Denise clicked open Karen Whitaker's personnel record. The executive summary looked clean. 15 years of service. Satisfactory reviews. No active discipline. Senior crew certification. Luxury client training completed. Then Denise opened the internal complaint archive. The room changed. There they were. One complaint from a black physician in Chicago, who said Karen repeatedly questioned whether he was in the correct cabin on a private medical charter. Closed. Insufficient evidence. One from a Latino real estate developer and his wife, who said Karen refused to serve them until another crew member confirmed they were the paying clients. Closed. Crew discretion. One from a black retired judge traveling from Atlanta, who said Karen called security because he sat in the forward cabin before boarding was complete. Closed. Miscommunication. Andrew read each line as if the words were pressing into his chest. Who closed these? Denise did not answer right away. Andrew looked up. Who? Denise clicked another tab. Martin Keller, Regional Service Manager. The Human Resources Director, Paula Green, shifted in her chair. Martin handled crew complaints for the East Coast. Andrew stared at her. And nobody reviewed his closures? Paula's mouth tightened. They were categorized as service disputes, not discrimination claims. Denise turned from the screen. They mentioned race. All three. The room went silent. That was the thing about systems. They rarely failed all at once. They failed by renaming the truth until nobody had to touch it. Service dispute, miscommunication, tone concern, client sensitivity. Soft words laid over hard harm. Andrew rubbed both hands over his face. He suddenly looked older than 59. Where is Karen now? Paula checked her phone. She has been told not to report for duty pending investigation. She is demanding a union representative and claiming self-defense. Denise gave a short, humorless breath. Self-defense against the owner of the aircraft she assaulted. Andrew looked toward the window. Get Martin Keller on administrative leave today. Full access suspended. Email, scheduling, complaint files, everything. Paula nodded quickly. And Karen? Terminate her after legal review? Denise shook her head. We need to move carefully. But the recording changes everything. If it shows what Brooks says it shows, suspension will not be enough. Andrew's phone buzzed on the table. Samuel Brooks. Everyone saw the name. Andrew answered. Mr. Brooks, this is Andrew Caldwell. Samuel's voice came through calm and clean. Mr. Caldwell, I assume you have received our letter. We have. Then you understand Mr. Ellington will not be accepting a private apology as resolution. Andrew closed his eyes. What is he asking for? 3 things immediately. Written acknowledgement of the incident. Preservation of every relevant record. And a full third-party review of your complaint handling process. Andrew looked at Denise. That is substantial. Samuel did not pause. So is assault. So is a false security report. So is a pattern your company appears to have ignored. No one in the conference room breathed normally. Andrew tried one final corporate instinct. Would Mr. Ellington consider a financial settlement while we investigate? Samuel's voice cooled. Mr. Ellington is not for sale. The line stayed quiet for one beat, and neither is his dignity. The call ended 2 minutes later. No shouting, no threats. Somehow worse. At that same moment, Karen Whitaker sat in her car in the employee lot at Teterboro, gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles blanched. Her crew bag was on the passenger seat. Her phone kept buzzing, scheduling, human resources. A coworker asking what happened, another asking if it was true. She did not answer. Her mind kept circling one image, the phone on Marcus's armrest, the red timer. She had always believed people like him could be managed, dismissed, reframed, turned into a problem before they could become a person. But the recording gave him something many people never get. Proof. Karen looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Her makeup was still perfect. Her hair was still tight. Her uniform still looked clean. But her eyes knew something had broken open. In the sky above Virginia, Marcus received Samuel's update. Third-party review requested. Prior complaints identified. Possible internal suppression. Marcus read the message twice. Then he looked across the cabin. Lily was seated in the jump seat, hands folded, staring at nothing. Captain Hayes's voice came softly over the intercom, announcing smooth air ahead. Marcus typed back only 4 words. Do not stop there. The Savannah deal closed at 3:17 that afternoon, but Marcus barely heard the applause. The conference room was bright and polished, with a long table, leather chairs, and a view of the river moving slow beyond the glass. Lawyers exchanged folders. Executives shook hands. Someone uncapped an expensive pen and joked that the ink was worth more than his first car. Marcus smiled when he was supposed to smile. He signed where he was supposed to sign. He thanked the founder of the logistics company, a 71-year-old man named Paul Vickers, who had built his business with 3 trucks and a mortgage on his house. Your people are safe, Marcus told him. Paul's eyes went wet. That is all I needed to hear. That moment should have filled the room. It should have been the story of the day. 2,000 jobs protected. A regional company saved from being carved apart by investors who only saw numbers. Families spared the kind of phone call that changes dinner tables forever. But under the smooth sound of business, Marcus still heard the slap, not the pain, the crack, the silence after it, the lie. As the meeting ended, his phone buzzed. Samuel. Formal assault complaint filed with Teterboro Airport Police. Recording submitted. Sterling has placed Karen Whitaker on unpaid suspension pending termination review. Martin Keller suspended. More coming. Marcus read it without changing expression. Across the room, a young attorney noticed the red mark on his cheek and looked away quickly, too polite or too afraid to ask. Marcus did not blame her. People were trained to avoid bruises they did not know how to name. In Manhattan, Andrew Caldwell had stopped pretending this was containable. By late afternoon, Sterling Air's internal review team had located 5 additional informal notes involving Karen. Not formal complaints, not exactly. Guest concerns, crew observations, follow-up memos that had never become anything. A black couple from Dallas described being asked for identification twice after boarding a chartered flight. A Puerto Rican surgeon wrote that Karen refused to use his title after being corrected 3 times. A junior crew member reported that Karen said certain clients made the cabin feel less premium. That last sentence sat on Andrew's desk like a live wire. Less premium. He read it again. Then again. There are phrases people use when they want bias to sound like business judgment. Andrew knew that now. Maybe he had known it before and had paid himself not to look. Denise Porter stood across from him. We have a problem bigger than Karen. Andrew let out a tired breath. I know. No, Denise said. I do not think you do. We have a complaint system that taught people there was no point in speaking up. Andrew looked at her. She did not soften. That means every ignored complaint became permission. The sentence landed hard because it was true. In a hotel near the Savannah riverfront, Marcus sat alone at a small desk with his laptop open. The city outside his window glowed warm in the falling sun. Horse carriages moved along the street below. Tourists laughed. Somewhere, A saxophone played a slow blues line that drifted up through the glass. His cheek had stopped burning, his mind had not. Samuel called again. "I have a journalist asking questions already." Marcus leaned back. "Who?" "Rachel Monroe." He knew the name. Investigative reporter. Careful. Relentless. She had exposed discrimination in mortgage lending, hospital security practices, and hotel chains that buried guest complaints. She did not write fast stories. She wrote stories that made boards call emergency meetings. How did she hear? Someone at the airport. Maybe Sterling. Maybe security. Hard to know. Marcus looked at the window. "Do we respond?" Samuel waited. "That depends on what you want." Marcus said nothing for a moment. For years, he had protected his privacy like a locked gate. Privacy let him move. It let him listen. It let him walk through the world without every person turning kind or cautious, because they knew his name. He valued that. He needed that. But Vivian's question would not leave him. How many people did not have the recording? Marcus closed his laptop halfway. "Put her through to me tomorrow, but only after you send her the verified facts." Samuel's voice lowered. "You understand what happens if this goes public? Yes. Your anonymity changes." Marcus looked at his reflection in the darkening glass. Hoodie, tired eyes, red cheek. A man who had spent decades becoming powerful enough to disappear, now choosing to be seen because others could not afford invisibility. "Maybe it should," he said. The next morning, Sterling Air terminated Karen Whitaker. Not resigned, not reassigned, terminated. Her access badge was disabled at 8:05. Her company email shut down at 8:12. A courier delivered the letter to her apartment at 9:30. Karen read the first page standing in her kitchen. By the second page, she sat down. By the third, she was crying, but not because she had hurt Marcus. Not yet. She was crying because consequences had finally found her address, and across the country, Rachel Monroe opened a secure file from Samuel Brooks. She pressed play. Marcus's calm voice filled the room, then Karen's, then the slap. Rachel stopped typing. For a long moment, she just listened to the silence after impact. That silence told the real story. Rachel Monroe's story went live on a Tuesday morning, just before sunrise. By 7:00, the article had already reached every corner of the aviation industry. By noon, cable news had the recording. By evening, Sterling Air management was no longer dealing with a private client dispute. It was a public reckoning. The headline was simple. A billionaire was slapped on his own jet. The recording exposed what money usually hides. Marcus watched the coverage from his office in Baltimore. Not from a stage, not beside a lawyer, not in front of flashing cameras. Just alone, standing by the window, wearing the same old hoodie Karen Whitaker had decided made him unworthy. The recording played again. Karen's voice. Marcus's calm reply. The slap. Then the silence. That silence changed everything. Not because it was loud. Because it was familiar. Millions of people heard it and recognized the moment. The breath after humiliation. The frozen second where you decide whether to fight, explain, swallow it, or survive it. Sterling Air's board moved fast after that. Martin Keller was fired for mishandling discrimination complaints. 2 senior managers resigned before the third-party audit was complete. The company issued a public apology, but Marcus refused to let them hide behind careful language. No vague regret. No unfortunate incident, no isolated lapse. His terms were clear. Name the failure, fix the system, protect the next person. Sterling agreed to an independent civil rights audit, mandatory bias reporting reforms, and training for every employee from pilots to executives. They also lost Ellington Global Partners as a client. $12 million a year, gone with one signed letter. The final line said what Marcus had not said on the jet. Ellington Global Partners does not do business with companies that confuse discrimination with customer service. That sentence moved through boardrooms faster than the video. Karen Whitaker fought the termination. She claimed fear. She claimed confusion. She claimed Marcus had provoked her by refusing to comply. But the recording left no room for theater. Airport police charged her with simple assault and filing a false report. The case did not become a circus. It became something quieter and more permanent. A courtroom, a judge, a recording. Lily Carter on the witness stand, hands folded tight, voice shaking at first, then steady. He did not touch her, she said. He pulled away. That was all. She hit him. Then she lied. Karen sat at the defense table, eyes fixed on nothing. When the judge asked whether she had understood the terms of her plea, her voice barely rose above a whisper. Yes, Your Honor. Probation, community service, a fine, a permanent record. Not prison, not ruin for the sake of spectacle, but consequence, real consequence. And sometimes that is what justice looks like. Not revenge, not applause. Just the truth entering the record where a lie once stood. Months later, Lily began work at the aviation company that took over Marcus's fleet. Senior attendant, better pay, better training. A manager who told her on the first day, around here, speaking up is part of the job. She went home that night and called her mother. I think I finally found a place where keeping my head down is not required. Her mother cried before she could answer. Marcus did not give many interviews. Only one. Rachel Monroe sat across from him in a quiet room, with no cameras rolling at first. She asked what he wanted people to remember. He looked down at his hands. Not my name, he said. Remember that if I had not pressed record, this would have been her word against mine. And we all know how that story usually ends. After that, he created the Ellington Justice Fund. $10 million to provide legal help for people facing discrimination in airlines, hotels, restaurants, and service jobs. People without private jets. People without attorneys on speed dial. People whose complaints were too often stamped closed before anyone truly them. In its first year, the fund helped housekeepers, nurses, drivers, veterans, teachers, and airport workers. Some cases settled. Some changed policies. Some simply gave people the one thing they had been denied, a chance to be believed. Marcus kept flying. He kept wearing hoodies. He still carried his own bag. But now, when he walked through terminals, some people recognized him. He did not enjoy that part. Still, he accepted it. Because privacy had once protected him. Visibility could protect someone else. And somewhere, in a training room at Sterling Air, new employees watched a case study about a man in a hoodie, a crew member who assumed too much, and a young attendant who finally told the truth. The lesson was not complicated. Respect is not a luxury service. Dignity is not reserved for people who look wealthy. And silence is never neutral when someone is being harmed. If this story made you think of a moment when someone should have spoken up, say so. Because sometimes one honest voice is enough to stop a lie from becoming the official story.